Kelly started keeping bees with a couple of hives in the early 1980s while a student at the University of Guelph. She learned the trade working for a commercial beekeeper in Peace River, Alberta, and all about queen rearing at Fairview College's commercial beekeeper program, which obviously is not there anymore. She co-owned and operated Chatsworth Honey for 33 years, managing 700 to 900 hives for apple pollination, queen and nuke sales, and honey production. She joined the Ontario Beekeeping Program, or the Ontario Breeding Program at its inception in 1992. And although retired from commercial beekeeping, she still continued to dabble in queens and nukes. And even to this day. So she has a really interesting method for raising just a small amount of queens, which is a fantastic way for someone who just wants to get into breeding to observe and see, so that you're not producing all those queens right off the hop. And so we'll skip right ahead and let Kelly do her presentation over Zoom.
Yeah, you're good, Kelly.
Okay. Thanks. Okay, so I won't go. Oh, yeah. Graham did a nice introduction, and thanks a lot, Graham, for being the chair of the Orbs breeders. You've done a great job. So okay, so this is my year 4 retirement bee yard. I find the hardest part about being a small beekeeper is actually being small and staying small. The first year I had three yards, which was way too much. And yes, this past year I was down to 1 yard, which was a little more manageable. I just want to talk first very quickly about my love affair with 5-frame nukes. We always ran a bunch of them with Chatsworth Honey. And, they were great for many reasons. Number one was replacing our losses in the spring. They'd come through the winter really well, and we could just plop them into some equipment, and they would take off. They'd be ready for pollination and make a great honey crop. And then we could restock those 5-frame nukes from strong hives to prevent swarming in May, and would make up these splits through the summer till sort of the mid to end of July for wintering outdoors. And I know if you're wintering indoors, you could keep making those splits up through the summer. They were also great for nuke and queen production. It was very easy to make nukes from a five-frame hive. Really easy to find a queen, and the frames of brood would be corner to corner because they're in such a small space. So yeah, it was really quick work. And they also produced an incredible amount of honey for, just a very small colony. A lot of the ones that I would nuke in the spring and maybe take one round of queens out of would produce, 3 small boxes of honey for me. They were really fun it was a nice break from the regular hives to work with the 5-frame nukes. And right now, probably more than half my hives, my colonies, are in a 5-frame nuke box. And just a brief slide here showing the bee escapes I used to take the honey off. I had somebody make me these with the diamond escape boards. So after 3 retirement years of raising queen cells in the regular cell builders, 2-story using the cloak board method, and each one needing a couple of support hives. It was still a lot of work, more work than I wanted to be doing, and it's very heavy work. A lot of people who didn't know anything much about beekeeping said when I retired, "Oh, you can just do your queens," just thinking, it'd be really easy to and they're light, just these little queens. But it's still one of the toughest jobs in beekeeping is managing cell builders. And because I had learned how to raise cells in queenless cell builders, double queenless cell builders out in Peace River, and I had worked with them for for many years. I'd also played with swarm boxes for getting those cells started. And I also knew that bees really like to be cozy. So I think if you've been beekeeping for a little while, you probably know that if you're making a split, 2-frame split into like a 4-frame nuc box, that's going to grow a lot faster than putting those 2 frames into a full-size Langstroth. They just do better in a smaller space relative to the number of frames. So I thought, for those reasons, why not try raising queens in a 5-frame nuc? So you can see here, I can just manage to squeeze in a cell bar, that's the center one, in a 5-frame nuc. It's tight. These old frames that we used to use at Chatsworth Honey were non-self-spacing. That's what we used out in Alberta, and we really preferred them. I still prefer them, and they fit a little easier. But I've also used self-spacing frames in these little queen rearing boxes, and they do fit. It's really tight, but you can do it. And this is how I set them up. Frame of foundation, and then 2 really good frames of capped and hatching brood. A frame of feed on the outside with honey and pollen. And then beside the cell bar, some larvae, not a lot, just a little bit. It's not a whole frame of larvae. I like to have a mixed frame, but just, a little bit of larvae and pollen. And I'll put the cell bar in right in there. And this is full, like there's a lot of bees in there. You really need the frame of foundation for them to cluster on. Because I've been raising queens in regular big boxes, I kind of know with experience what they should look like even in a small box. High percentage of nurse bees. So, and I'll put pollen patty on top, like I'll treat them just like a regular cell builder. Currently, I'm making my own pollen patties. And then I have a feeder. This is a carousel feeder from New Zealand, and it works quite well. And there's a nice little gap between the bottom of the blue part of the feeder and the top. So lots of room for pollen patties. Here's just another shot. And because it's a smaller unit, I don't graft 45 cells. I just graft 30, but they had no problem in drawing out all those 30 cells. I didn't see a difference in size from a bigger cell builder. Lots of royal jelly in the cells. I didn't go more than 30. So my next problem when I was trying out this system last year was, I wanted to do a graft every week to keep it going. And I used to, do the graft on Tuesday, take that first graft out, put it in an incubator, so there'd be room for the graft the next Tuesday. But I don't have an incubator anymore, so I would put it in an incubator hive. So that's the one, the purple and white one. So there's a queen excluder over the first box, the bottom box. And again, my goal is to make things as easy as possible for myself. So I had a lot of foundation up top, but I, again, had frames of feed and lots of good brood frames to attract the bees up. And then I'd put my 2 cell bars, because I always run 2 cell builders, because you never know what's going to happen. You could have a wild queen that gets out. So even though, I'm small and I don't need that many queen cells, I'm still running 2 every week. So there's 2 cell builders in here from my 2 little 5-frame. There's 2 cell bars in here from my 2 5-frame cell builders. So I think it's not a perfect system yet. We were finding that some of my queens were hatching out a little early, and that might be because they're not queen right for just to the very end of their development. So if I get them over a queen earlier, that might solve that problem. And I'm thinking I might need a little 5-frame cloak board. And I don't know if Paul Kelly's there, he was supposed to be, but if you're out there, Paul, that's what I need for this year. Yeah, so I think there's a lot of possibility in this for, you know, smaller beekeepers, sideline beekeepers who, you know, want to be self-sufficient, or they're members of a bee club. They could supply queen cells to their bee club members, instead of having to have their own mating nukes. Yeah, there's a lot of possibility. And yeah, I'm going to work on it again this year and see if I can perfect it. Oh, and just I'll just finish up just showing how I overwinter my 5-frame nukes outdoors. A lot of beekeepers years ago in Ontario, including Brian's Honey, who we bought our operation from, Chatsworth Honey, they use big crates to winter their hives filled with straw for insulation. So we kind of ran with that idea and made these little crates that are insulated, and they fit 2 5-frame nukes, and they overwinter quite well in there. As long as they're healthy, they seem to come through the winter fine. They have to be fed really well in the fall, and also in the spring, early spring. You need to get out there pretty early. But yeah, they can be booming in the spring. Yeah, you can do what you want with them. Okay, are there any questions?
Hi, Fred Hunkler here. When you put your Ceracell feeder on top of those, do you put the inner cover on first and then the Ceracell feeder?
Yes, and I blocked the top entrance to the inner cover. And I find that bees, because it's not a totally flat surface, robber bees tend to get inside them. So I cover the carousel feeder with a sheet of plastic to stop robbers.
Hi, Kelly, this is Aline. The question is, how long do the cells stay in the 5-framer?
Well, last year they were in for the 7 days. I'd graft Tuesday and then take them out Tuesday and put them in the incubator hive until Friday for the last 3 days.
Those bees in the 5-frame have enough power and resources to grow the 30 cells?
They seem to, yep. Yep. But I'm constantly feeding them and topping up that syrup.
Log the cells with syrup. Do you have a specific quantity of syrup per day or something like that?
No, because it depends on what the bees are foraging on. Like during dandelions, you know, they go through less syrup. In Durst, they go through more. So I just keep an eye on it and top it up when needed.
The sits on the inner cover right under the like the feeder.
The pollen patty? Sorry, could you repeat that?
On the inner cover, right?
Inner cover is underneath the feeder. Yeah. But you have to block the top holes so you don't get any other bees coming in.
Kelly, I'm wondering if you've ever had the queen get around your queen excluder with your incubation hive and kill all of the cells that you've built.
No, I haven't. I use 2 queen excluders just to make sure there's a big barrier, but I haven't had that problem.
So like 2 queen excluders right next to each other?
Yeah.
It's in between.
Yeah, when you're using a cloak board, there's you know, queen excluder beneath it and above it. So yeah, you just can't be too careful when you're raising cells.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.